Well, Alf, it looks like CGC has recalled 1,561 of these test cards, supposedly early Pokemon cards, the first of its kind, grail cards in quotation marks. I'm going to have a surprising hot take at the end of this video, so make sure you stay to the end. But man, 1,561 cards. CGC has now issued a statement to talk about this. There's been a lot of great Pokemon card collectors / investors / speculators, different YouTubers and IG folks that have commented on this story and provided a lot of really great commentary and background and who are the players involved. And yes, you do really hope that in these sorts of instances that there are consequences for people that are printing cards in 2024 and selling them off as cards from 1996. And then, of course, are selling on huge auction houses for tens of thousands of dollars. 1,561 cards. We could be talking in the millions of dollars of potential damages here for the people that have been affected. The spotlight is on CGC right now, as they said here in their statement. They released a statement, and there's also a great article that came out from collect.com. Shout out to the folks over there, Darren Ravel, Will Stern, and Ben Burrows, for putting out a couple of different articles on this. But CGC said that they stand behind their cards. And I know some people might not look at people like this as victims. Like, hey, you bought into these cards. You were all about the money, and you bought into these cards, and you were all about the money. I guess I just don't look at it this way. If there are cards out there, and let me also say, there are some real copies. It has been confirmed that there are some real copies of these particular cards that exist. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But I don't look at this as, oh, wow, these people were horrendously stupid and just trying to make money flipping and buying or holding these or whatever. Look, a lot of the folks, yes, maybe they were trying to buy and sell and maybe hold, and maybe they're worth more money down the road and all of those sorts of things. That's pretty typical in collectibles when you're spending huge money, spending tens of thousands of dollars on individual cards. Yeah, you might really love Pokemon, unless you're Jeff Bezos and you just have that money like in your bathroom as toilet paper and you can just throw away 50 grand. I mean, for the rest of us, for the vast majority of people, you spend $10,000 on a card, whether you state it publicly or not. I just assume that you don't want to see that card be worth 0 or 1,000 or even 5,000 down the road. The assumption is, hey, this is a really cool item that I get to hold. That's what collectibles are. You get to own really cool items, and then they have the potential to go up in value over time. That's kind of a lot of the point of expensive collectibles. Now, if you're just collecting cards and collectibles and it's lower end type stuff, on the sports card side, I always make the joke of Bobby Hebert cards. I've got certain cards. My Bobby Hebert cards are not going to be worth 10x down the road. I know that. But these are not Bobby Hebert cards. These are supposed to be some of the very first, very most important cards of the largest selling IP in the world, Pokemon. So no need to apologize if you were one of the victims of this. You thought it was something incredible. And again, there are some of these real copies out there. And now CGC is going to have to figure this out. The statement is kind of weak, frankly. I mean, they put it out basically saying, like, here's our process. We've started an investigation. We've launched an investigation. It says it's going to take some time, which could very well mean a long time. We don't really know. Here's kind of the pathway to send your cards back to us. Here's all the affected cert numbers that they have. More than likely, this is going to be a huge payout by CGC. They had a similar issue. They had a pretty expensive scandal on the comic book side going back to 2024, end of 2023 and going into 2024, not where they had graded fake comic books, but they've just been getting hit. They have just been getting smacked in the face over the last couple of years, CGC, I mean. And I think it's a big warning sign, I think, to grading companies. Be extremely careful what you're willing to put in your holder. You're authenticating it. And for CGC and PSA, they're providing money back guarantees on this stuff to authenticate your items. And so whoever pulled this off, they're like, oh man, we got this thing in a CGC case. We are golden. And that's exactly what did happen. The reason why people were spending big money, a big part of the reason, I shouldn't say the only reason, but a big reason why people were okay spending tens of thousands of dollars is because it was sitting in a CGC holder. You know, these grading companies are important in that sense. If you have a card that's sitting in a PSA holder, a CGC holder, a Beckett holder, a SGC holder, the assumption is, okay, that card's good to go. That card is legit. I'm okay spending huge money on it because I know that rare card, it's not a reprint, it's not trimmed or whatever. That's the whole point of the third-party grading system. It's a system that we need in trading cards. I know a lot of people will say like, oh, we don't need grading. I completely disagree. These problems would be way, way worse, especially with all the money in trading cards nowadays. It would be 1,000% worse without third-party grading companies. But going back to CGC's statement, they said less than 0.03% of the cards that they have graded have been affected here, which doesn't feel good if you're somebody that's been affected by this scandal, that's been affected. It doesn't feel good when they put that sort of a statement in. I know they're putting that statement in basically saying like, hey, I understand this is bad, but this is a very small percentage of the cards that we've graded in total. The problem with the statement, though, is yes, maybe you've graded millions of cards over time, but these are very, very important cards in the trading card space and especially the Pokemon card space. So it's not a good look. I'm curious to see how long it's going to take for payouts to happen and that sort of a thing. It says the investigation is going to take some time. And so I'm curious. I'll be watching some of these Pokemon card collectors, investors, the YouTubers and the IGers that have been affected and speaking on it, what their experience is here. This is a really important deal for CGC in large part because they are second to only PSA, who is top of the mountain for trading card grading in general, but CGC's grading on the trading card side is in TCG. It's Magic the Gathering, it's Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and it's a ton of Pokemon cards. There's a lot of Pokemon collectors that really love using CGC, and the last thing that CGC needs is for people to lose confidence in their grading, their authentication when it comes to Pokemon cards and TCG cards. It is the bulk of their overall trading card grading. Now, I said in the beginning of the video, I've got a hot take to stay to the end, and I've heard some people, I think they actually have the opposite viewpoint here when it comes to these playtest cards. Because from my understanding, and again, tell me if I'm wrong down in the description, I would like to know this. My understanding here is that there are real copies of these cards. They do exist. There was actual cards from 1996 that were these original playtest cards. And then now, of course, in 2024, you have all of a sudden there's a bunch showing up. Weird. I've heard a lot of commentary that, oh man, well, this scandal is really going to damage the values on the real ones. I actually think it's the complete opposite. I think it's actually going to elevate the price over time for the real deal ones that are out there. And I think the real ones are lower grade copies. So part of the reason why some people were like, I don't really get how a lot of these 1996 playtest cards are in 10 holders. How are there so many that are in such great condition? But the ones that are real, my understanding, is that they're lower grade copies. If I had one of these and I thought, you know what, I think mine might be real, I would actually probably have it taken out of the case. I would crack it out of the case and I would have some sort of a test run on it to see if it is legit. Again, I don't know the technology behind this, about how they're able to see how the card was printed and that sort of a thing. But if you have proof that your card was printed in 1996, I think that those cards are going to be very valuable. Again, I could be wrong, just one guy's opinion. Yes, of course, the fact that there's some scandal around this card doesn't look good for the card, but the truth is that if the story is true for some of these cards, that these are some of the originals, the reason why people sold collections to get into these cards, that there actually are real ones out there and that some scammers came in and were like, maybe we can copy these and print off more of them. Again, I would be trying to figure out how did they use this printer technology, and I want mine tested out. To me, that adds to the provenance of the item. If you're able to get this thing, if tech can actually show, yep, this thing was printed in 1996, February 1996, that just adds to the story. This printing company proved that this card was printed in 1996. It is not one of the 2024 copies. I think that would be a very interesting collectible, and I think that a lot of Pokemon card collectors would agree, especially the ones that are collecting vintage, that are collecting that older stuff, the origins of the game, the origins of the IP. I really think that that's the stuff that's going to really hold up over time when we look 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years down the road. It will be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, and we will report back on it as more news comes about. Friends, have an amazing day ahead. Stay healthy, stay awesome. I'll talk to you again later.